motivated and eager to take action and to do something, but he or she doesn't necessarily realize that other people might take it badly, that other people might feel offended. On the other hand, you have what we call the implementer. So that's someone who's very disciplined and reliable, very efficient, but also conservative, who can be a little bit inflexible, for example. So this might be a person, you tell them, okay, can you please do this or that for us? And they will say, yes, sure, absolutely. However, they will not, change their behavior easily, because once they've gone down a certain road, it's a bit difficult for them to change that. The completer finisher is someone who delivers on time, who searches out errors. So someone who really gets the job done for you and who gets all the details nice. However, it could be someone who is not very good at delegating, because maybe he or she likes having complete control over every detail of the work. Next up, we have the people-oriented roles. So these roles are really team members that focus on people, that focus on the relationship with their team members. So we have the coordinator. I think that is pretty self-explanatory. Someone who is good at coordinating, who can delegate well and sort of organize work between people. However, people might think that this person is a little bit manipulative or doesn't really contribute personally, because they tend to offload their part of the work on other people. The team worker, I guess, is also pretty simple to understand. It's someone who's cooperative, who's diplomatic, who listens and sort of averts friction sometimes. So maybe not the most competitive person, someone who doesn't really like conflict, and could be indecisive in crunch situations. So situations where it's really important, or like situations of pressure where it's very important to make a decision quickly, maybe they're not very good at doing that. The resource investigator is someone who loves exploring opportunities and developing contacts. So I guess when Light Club reached out to me on Facebook, that was a resource investigator right there sending me that message, exploring opportunities for collaboration and developing contacts and networks. Sometimes these people might lose interest once the initial enthusiasm has passed. So maybe you have a friend, or maybe you even recognize yourself in this. You could be someone that gets very, very excited about ideas and about something new, but loses interest fairly quickly once that initial enthusiasm has passed. These are often people that start a hobby and then they finish something. I'm sure you all have this one friend who 1 year plays football and the next year they try out tennis, and 3 months later they learn to play the guitar, but then that gets a bit boring. So they're lovely, people for getting a new idea implemented. However, they might lose interest fairly quickly. The last 3 roles are what we call the cerebral roles. So these roles have a high focus on the brain, on thinking, analytical people. The plant is someone who is creative, imaginative, and likes to solve difficult problems, but might not be able to communicate very good. Someone who we might call a geek sometimes, right? So someone who's very good at solving whatever problem you give them, and they very much get into their own little world, but they are not very good communicators because they are so preoccupied with what's going on in their brains. The monitor evaluator is someone who can do just that. He can monitor and he can evaluate. So someone who has a good overall perspective and can tell you exactly what are the parts of a teamwork or parts of a project that are going well, and what are the parts that are not going well, and he has a very accurate judgment of that, but he might not be the most inspiring, driving person. It's someone a little bit like, you want to say like an accountant sometimes, right? Someone who's good at looking at the numbers and telling you if something is good or bad, but that's about it. The last person is a specialist. I'm sure we have some specialists in this Zoom session today as well. So he provides knowledge and skills in a very specific field, which can be very, very interesting because that's what we call the expert. However, it could also mean that they contribute only in one very specific thing. My father is a specialist. My father is a naval engineer, so he's an engineer for shipbuilding and maritime vessels, and he is extremely knowledgeable in this field. But ask him anything about business or marketing, he has absolutely no idea. And he gets amazed every single day when I explain to him business-related topics that to me are very simple. So he's just very specialized in what he's doing, but he can become a little bit technical, let's say. So here we have the overview of all 9 team roles. And I would like you to take 2 minutes now to find out where you stand. So I will let you have another look at this slide, and I would like you to think about the following questions. What is my role? Is my team balanced? So the group that you are maybe working with at the moment. Are there any strengths or difficulties that my roles bring? Can someone else balance out my weaknesses? Or what weaknesses do I have that my team should balance out? And what skills can I develop to strengthen or improve my role? So see a little bit where you find yourself in these 9 team roles. I'll give you 2 minutes to have a look, because I know it's quite a bit to read. And then if you would like to take some notes just for yourself, that's great. And then we will continue. Okay, this is interesting. So Mina says she thinks nowadays everyone is a specialist. That's interesting. Yeah, people tend to specialize a lot at the moment. And I think that's what everyone always tells you. You have to specialize, you have to become an expert in one field. Don't try to do everything and nothing all at once. And you really have to find your specialization. True, absolutely. I think what can also be interesting is to be more of a generalist and make that your specialty. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but you can be good at being the person, or you can specialize in being the person that has a good general overview. And I think that's what we do as consultants. Our job is to be specialized in the big picture. All right, so we have some completer finishers among us. A good coordinator. Yeah, there's something else that's really interesting here. Some of you say that you are maybe a combination of 2 profiles. Absolutely. Sometimes we have different, sides to us. We have different parts of our personality. So sometimes people cannot or do not fit into one specific role, but they are more of a combination, let's say, of different roles or different types of team members. That is absolutely correct. All right. A few plants as well, another completer finisher. If you can, also tell me what your specialty in studying is. That could be interesting as well. Like, are you all medical students? Do you have a specialty that you're working with? Do you come from a completely different field of studies, maybe? That would be interesting. Okay. So all medical students until now. Okay. So even though you're all in the same field, very, very different personalities and different approaches, right? That's interesting. So you guys would make up a good team, actually, so that you can balance each other out. Yeah, some of you mentioned also that it depends on the situation or on the type of project that you work on. That's a good point as well. Sometimes, especially when we're young, and I think especially university is a good place to try yourself out, obviously, what might happen is that you try out different team roles, or sometimes you can also get pushed into a certain role, and that's how you find out, okay, what fits me, what suits me well, what makes me feel comfortable, and what doesn't. And that's sort of then how you can figure out, you know, your preferences and more about your team role or the role you're good at assuming. Yeah, Aya says she thinks our teamwork can change from one team to another. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I just meant, that, you know, with each team, yeah, your role can, or the role you assume can differ also depending on the other people around you. Okay, Mina asks, can a team be made up of one or two team roles? Aha. That's usually a question I look at with my corporate clients. So we look at, okay, what are the central team roles? What are like the most important ones? I'd say yes, there are sometimes teams where people are too similar almost. So what happens is that someone who is a good coordinator is maybe the boss, and he starts hiring people that are also good at coordinating, because these are strengths that he or she personally appreciates in people. And then what happens is we have 5 or 6 people that are all super good at coordinating, but we don't have anyone who's actually good at exploring opportunities or getting the job done. And so yes, it can happen. However, this can actually be quite detrimental to a team. If we're too similar, we become what we call prisoners of our own success. So it's pretty much like a prison that we cannot break out from, because we focus, exactly, we focus on a specific strength or on a specific characteristic, but we forget that we are also lacking things, and there's an imbalance. Let's say there's an imbalance, really. Okay. So, topics or problems that a team can assume. I will first of all answer one last question. Is it impossible to meet these roles in one person? I would say yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, it is impossible because no one can possibly assume all of these roles, and no one can be possibly good at all of these things at the same time. However, I would also say no, it's not impossible, because you can have so many different aspects or tendencies that you can follow depending on your surrounding. And that actually is in combination with the next question: can someone learn a role in a team from a lack of that role? Absolutely. So it might be that you already start out as a combination of, let's say, a coordinator, implementer, and shaper. So already you have 3 of these roles in you naturally, but then you also see that there's a lack. So you start trying to assume those roles as well. And yeah, usually what happens is a burnout. I think if you're trying to assume too many roles by yourself, yes, you can learn from that, but it also might be very, very overwhelming. So I see that from businesses. That's like what happens then is that, you know, people come to us and they say, okay, I've tried to do everything by myself, and I ended up doing nothing really well because I've just started too many things at the same time. What is my role? That's an interesting question. To be honest, I think I'm working in a startup and we're a very small team. So I think we often assume different roles in different projects. In general, I'm somewhere between being a shaper, implementer, but also a specialist, because I'm really focusing on the soft skills aspect. However, depending on previous projects, I've also taken on the role of the coordinator or the monitor evaluator, simply because a specific project required me to do that. How did I not go crazy? Why did my head not go up in flames, assuming different roles? It is because my role was always linked to a very specific project and a very specific result. So that was great, let's say, because I knew, okay, in this project or at this time for the next month, I have to assume this specific role, but after that I can let go of it because the project is over and I can work on something else. And that for me is, I think, the biggest advantage of working in a startup, that you get to experience so many different kinds of projects and situations, and you can change hats frequently without burning out. What's the best role? What are the roles used in the extraordinary team? I think the extraordinary team doesn't necessarily need specific roles. I think you always want a good combination, a good variety. So as we established, you don't want a team of only coordinators or a team of only specialists. However, I think what makes an extraordinary team is simply that they are very aware of the fact that they might be lacking something, and they find a way to work around that, let's say. So often when I ask my clients to say, okay, what do you think is the most crucial role in any team? Often they say, okay, you always need a coordinator. You need someone, you know, overlooking the whole operations or the whole task. You always need a shaper, so someone who challenges and who, you know, pushes people to go forward. And you always need either a plant or a specialist, so someone who's a little bit more specific. So yeah, possibly I'd say in an extraordinary team, you would have, of each of the three categories, at least one person. So at least one action-oriented, one people-oriented, one cerebral-orientated role. But extraordinary teams are really extraordinary because they can work around their deficits. Do working conditions affect the team too? Absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, working conditions affect the team. So yeah, because it just affects the person, right? It affects the mood and the way people behave. So imagine a specialist, right? So this person that loves solving a specific problem, that loves sort of, you know, just getting their head into one specific topic, and you put that person in an open space office where everyone else is on the phone and talking, and the light is very bright, for example. Of course, that person might feel very frustrated because they're not able to concentrate as much as they want to. So yeah, workplace conditions definitely affect the team. Okay, what are the different things that make a member less confident in teamwork? To be honest, I think it's all about communication. I think a lack of confidence comes when people either feel that their voice is not being heard, that they don't have, you know, an opportunity to share their ideas and opinions. Or it might be because they feel that other people, and especially the team leader, doesn't share his or her vision and outlook. So often lack of confidence also comes from a lack of goals and objectives. So if I, as a team member, don't know where we as a team are going, and at the same time, or separately from that, I also feel that people are not listening to what I have to say, I think that's really what has a negative impact on confidence in a teamwork. Yeah. How do we behave if someone in the team is stubborn and always raises problems? I don't think quarrels are good. I think quarrels are great. They're not good, they are great. No, of course, conflict is never nice. It's not something that we love experiencing, but it is possibly the biggest opportunity for growth and for learning. So I think, and that also is really what makes an extraordinary team, is to have a good culture, and it also means to have a healthy culture of fighting. So we can fight, we can be, you know, very different in our opinions, but we need to have the right culture. That means the right communication skills and the right framework to discuss these things in a constructive way without hurting each other. Respect, very good, exactly. What are the different things or tasks we can do to become a successful leader? I think you have to define what it means for you to be a successful leader. I think you need to have your own clear idea, because there's not one type of successful leader. So I think the most important task that you can perform is to define, okay, what do I need? How do I want to be? And what do I want to feel like in order to, as per my personal definition, be a successful leader? I think you have to make that very, very clear to yourself. And other than that, I think the most important thing is feedback, feedback, feedback. Actively ask for people's feedback. Don't be happy when they tell you, good job, great, oh yeah, you're doing really well. Ask them, what am I doing well? Why did you appreciate this part of my work? Is there anything you would have done differently? So get as much input and as much knowledge and information from those people around you as you can. I think that's very important. I always say, if you tell a person, good job, that is very, very bad feedback, because it's not specific at all. It doesn't tell the person why exactly you think that they did a good job, how they can improve in the future, or what they should do more of next time. So I hope that answers your question. How to pass the awkwardness in the first meeting? I'd say, to be honest, like sometimes a joke can be fun, but that can also make a situation even more awkward, I guess. So it really depends on the person in front of you. But I would say is like the most important thing is to be human, and to be honest sometimes. So yeah, you can go down the road of acting. It's what we call fake it till you make it. So you pretend to be confident until you trick your brain into actually being confident. That's one way. The other thing that you can do, and that's something that actually works miracles, is just to be honest and to say, look, let's say you have a job interview, right? So you go in for an interview, and instead of like acting like you are super confident and super blasé about the position, that might come across as like not natural at all, because maybe in your face you're trying to put on a straight face, you're trying to be serious, but at the same time they can see the sweat running down your forehead. So what you could do instead is to just say, look, I'm actually really excited about this position, that's why I'm a bit nervous. Or you could tell the person, wow, this is my first job interview, I've never done this before, so I was a little bit insecure when I came here this morning. So yeah, I think sometimes honesty is the way forward, really. Right. I'd say we probably have another 5 minutes. Is that okay? Before Zoom kicks me out again. What I'd love to do are two things. First of all, I would like you to acknowledge that communication is key. Right? So I think at the end of the day, what we all need to do is understand that communication is key, and without openly communicating, we cannot succeed as a team. If we don't share our concerns, our ideas, but also our fears and our feedback, we will not be able to become an extraordinary team. So if there's anything I would like you to take away from today, I think it is this. Before I get into some more of your questions, please let's share. So if you have any follow-up actions on the session, if you have taken any pictures, any screenshots today, please use these, use this hashtag, and make sure to tag me on Instagram and Facebook. I would love to see your outcome. So if you start, taking notes or something on what you would like to, what do you call that? On what you would like to do with today's information, please make sure to tag me so that I can see. I know at the moment with social distancing, teamwork has changed a bit. But if you have any sort of follow-up actions on this, please make sure to use the hashtag SabineXLightClub and tag me on Instagram and Facebook so that I can see what you guys are up to. I would really, really love to see how you use today's information. I would like to leave some more time for your questions, really. What else can I tell you? What else would you like to know? Just pop your questions in the chat box. just go back to the video for a second so you're not looking at a black screen. Thank you too. Thank you guys. Thanks for listening. Any follow-up questions? Thanks so much. How can our feedback be beneficial? Our feedback can be beneficial if it is complete. Complete feedback means you tell the person what situation you are talking about. So it needs to be specific. You don't just give someone feedback about, you know, life in general, but you link your feedback to one very specific situation. You also describe that person's specific behavior. So what did they do that you appreciated or didn't appreciate? And then you also tell them about the impact. So what consequences did their behavior have? To give you a quick example, let's say you give a presentation at university. Instead of you know, just telling your friend, oh, you did a really good presentation, well done. What you could tell them is say, look, this morning when you gave your presentation on topic ABC, I really appreciated that you included real life examples and that you shared a video about the topic, because it really helped me to stay interested and to keep focused during the presentation. That would sort of be the behavior. And what is the impact? Now I feel a lot more confident and I want to do more research on the topic because you really sparked my interest. That is really, yeah, a lot more valuable, let's say, than just telling your friend, okay, great work, well done, I liked your presentation. So really be specific and describe the consequences as well. That works both for positive and negative feedback. All right, let me look at your question. How can you build a good relationship with your team? How can you gain trust? Trust is a very, very important topic, absolutely. Trust is something that is built through actions over time. So I think honesty and also what we call in English, walking the talk. So you don't just talk, but you actually let actions follow. You lead by example, as we say, is a great way to build trust. All right, someone said that they don't think they can be good in teamwork because they're a lonely person in real life, so they're not very sociable. I think you can still find your role in a team. You don't have to be that loud person, you know, that brings up all the ideas and that gives all the presentations, but I'm sure you can find something that you're really good at and still contribute to teamwork. What I also suggest is that you maybe find someone within that team that you can trust, or that you at least, you know, find nice at least, and you see if they can help you balance out your weaknesses a bit. So try and find like one partner in crime almost, so that you don't feel so lonely within the team. All right. How can we delegate without manipulating? That's a good point. I think it's all about mutual agreement. It's not just about telling a person to do a certain task, but to agreeing together with the person why it is a good idea that they do that specific task. Is there any practical step to change your way of communication if it didn't work? Yes, again, feedback. Understanding why did our communication not work? Why did we miscommunicate? And look at the situation together with the other person to find out what both of you can do differently next time. If you want something done your way, do it yourself. But this is against the idea of working in a team. Absolutely. I think we just have to get over ourselves. And I guess one of the hardest things of working in a team, especially if you're a little bit of a perfectionist or like a little bit of a maniac when it comes to quality of work, is to accept that other people are going to do things differently and it's not the end of the world. I think that's just a mantra you have to keep repeating to yourself sometimes. How do I behave with team members if they do not like to work? Yeah. I think we've all been there, right? Our professors give us what they call a group task. And what that means is one person does all the work and the other people show up the day of the presentation. The most important thing here is to define responsibility and create sort of a sense of autonomy for each person. So to say, okay, every person can do things the way they want to do it, but they are going to be held accountable. So again, getting agreement from everyone in the group and making sure each person knows exactly what they have to do and what they are personally responsible for. All right, what is my advice on having a good impression or leaving a good impression, I guess, with your colleagues? Like, for example, having a nice look or something. Look, there are some basics. Obviously, you want to go to work or to uni looking clean and not smelling bad. I guess these are the basics, right? Don't eat garlic before a big team meeting where you want to impress people. But other than that, honestly, just be yourself and be honest. I think what people really appreciate is honesty and someone just saying, look, I am a little bit uncomfortable with this situation. This is the first time I'm doing this. Please help me out, and I'm happy to hear your advice as well. I think once you tell people that, they cannot not like you. All right. Smile. Yeah, smiling works like magic. Yeah, we always say a smile is the shortest connection between two people. Absolutely. All right. Last question. Tack, tack, tack. How can we deal with a person who does the work late, not respecting deadlines and making everyone else late too? Yes, there are a few ways. First of all, obviously, you should all agree together on certain deadlines. If that doesn't work out and if they continue being late, make sure you have a plan B. So if you already know that person from a previous project, make sure you have a plan B somehow. And also something that I have done before is internally advancing the deadline. So I have recently collaborated with a marketing agency, and I had a specific deadline, which was at the end of the month. However, I told the agency that the deadline was already in the middle of the month, and I knew they were going to be late. So I had like a 2-week period that I could work with. How can I know what I'm good at if I don't have like any new experiences? There are not many possibilities where you live. All right. I would say, yeah, of course it can be frustrating. It can be difficult. Absolutely. I'd say try and learn from others as much as possible. So as you did, I guess, clubs that allow you to do, to gain some new experience in digital ways. That's great. And then honestly, use your holidays as much as possible. Whenever you have some free time, try and see if you can maybe, spend, even if it's just 3-4 days in a different city, working on a different project, finding out something new, working with an NGO. That would be great. Like, even if it's just a small thing, even if you can just like put in a day trip somewhere, that can already be a new experience. I think we have to get away from the idea of something new always being something really big. You can find a new experience even in the small things, I'd say. Right, okay. So if you're a perfectionist, how can you change that and accept that sometimes things don't work? There's a question that I ask myself in that situation, because I tend to be a little bit perfectionist and I like things done a certain way. And I think that's where my German side comes through as well, right? Like, living in Tunisia, I've had some cultural adaptation as well, and as you can imagine, as a German, I like things organized and on time and done in a certain way. But that doesn't always work out. So the question I ask myself is, will this matter 1 year from now? Like, will I still be thinking about this problem? Will I still be impacted by this situation this time next year? And in 99% of the cases, the answer is no. And once I found this answer, I can immediately stop worrying about it, because it's not actually as important as I thought it was. Right, any books to recommend for us? Yes, there's a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I think that's a really, really interesting book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. That really talks about everything that goes wrong in teamwork and what we can do in order to remedy that. So yeah, if you're still looking for something to read this summer, make it The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Very good. Does failure of work mean team failure then? Yes and no. No. I have to stop giving you both answers. The answer is no. If your work doesn't succeed, it doesn't mean you failed as a team. Because despite all efforts that you made as a team, because of some circumstances, because of certain obstacles, it might still be that you don't succeed in the actual project or in the actual task, but that doesn't mean that you have failed as a team, no. However, failure of a team can lead to failure in work. If team workers have a relation outside work, can it make a good relation and lead to an extraordinary team? Absolutely, sure, yeah, definitely. If you have like a relationship with your co-workers, for example, outside work as well, if you guys, you know, share some meals sometimes or go out for lunch together, of course that helps with being an extraordinary team, because it can increase this feeling of trust, absolutely. What are the questions a leader should ask his team? Because as a team, they have different values. Yeah, I think some group brainstorming sessions can be really helpful with that. What can happen is that you can have almost like a workshop with your team members where you let everyone share their ideas and their values individually, and then you sort of see what is the baseline that we can agree on. So really get their input. And the question you should ask them, I guess, is what are your values, or what do you want from things? What is your perspective? And then you can see where the differences in this perspective are, so that you can, you know, move back to the same page. Lovely. Now I have a question for you guys as well, actually. I'd love to take one of these fancy screenshots where we all have our camera on, so I can actually see who's been around. So is there any way you guys can put on your cameras as well, so I can see some faces? Recommendations for learning the German language. So I would definitely say German is a very difficult language. There are some good online resources that you can use, especially something called Deutsche Welle. Don't know if you've heard of it, Deutsche Welle. They have a really cool online program where they do like little videos on YouTube and also on their website that can help you learn German. So I think that's really cool. And also trying to speak with native speakers as much as possible. So maybe join some Facebook groups of German students and see if there's anyone who's studying Arabic or French, and see if you can do a language exchange, even digitally. I think that's really nice. Okay. You're in a team with your friends and they don't take you seriously. How do you deal with that? I think it's important that you explain to your friends the consequences of their behavior, because they might think it's a joke and it's not that much of a problem, let's say. And I think you should really make them understand why it has a negative impact on you, and why that negative impact is maybe bigger than what they are thinking about, so that they can adapt their behavior. Most of the times people don't realize that it's actually disturbing the other person. It's impossible to be serious with your friends. You start laughing as soon as you see them. Yeah, I've been there, definitely. Sometimes you just have to inhale deeply, suck it up, and go for it. Keep a straight face, think about something that's not funny, and you'll get there. If you lost control of your team, does that mean you're not a good leader? No, because sometimes things happen, sometimes things go wrong, absolutely. But that doesn't mean you're not a good leader. I mean, it means that maybe you didn't do certain things right, or you can improve on certain things. But I wouldn't just go into this definition of good or bad. I think that's a bit too black and white, let's say. All right, very good. So, thank you very much for joining and for tuning into the session today. I hope you had a good time. I definitely did. Yeah, anyone else available to pop their camera quickly so I can take a screenshot? You can have like a group picture almost. There we go, there we have a face. Hi there.
Hello.
Lovely. Anyone else joining the picture? Wafa, Ismail, Maisa, Ikram. Get your cameras on, guys. Nesreen, where's your camera?
1 second, please.
Get in the picture, guys. No one? No one's joining us. Can you believe it?
I'm here.
There we go. Who's that? Hi, Rada. Hi, good to see you. Lovely. There we go, bit by bit. Good to see you guys.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Very good. So are you guys all sat in different cities as well?
I'm from Constantine.
Okay.
I'm from Jijel.
All right, very good. So you're across the country as well. Someone says with this quarantine thing, we might all look terrible. So you guys are all in your pajamas. I can tell. Anyways, yeah, great speaking to you. Really, really nice experience. Thanks so much. And I just woke up. My face is so funny. Guys, what are you doing? It's 3 p.m. Student life, sweet student life. Yeah, please make sure to tag me on Instagram and Facebook if you just put in Sabine Bastisch. Yeah, that would be really cool so I can see what you guys are up to and how you are using whatever we spoke about. Have a lovely rest of the week. I know there's more sessions coming your way and more things that you guys are going to be talking about with some very, very smart people from all over the world. And yeah, I hope to see you again at some point, either me going to Algeria or you guys coming to Tunis. If anyone ever ends up in Tunis, by the way, please drop me a line on Facebook and we'll meet up, okay?
Ja, vielen Dank.
Dankeschön.
Bitte sehr.
Next time we'll do the session in German.
Nächstes Mal.
Sehr gut. All right, goodbye everyone.
Tschüss.
Goodbye.